See, a risk in hospital is different than a risk in a manufacturing company. Right? Exactly. And once you do a good work for a real estate construction company, you will be called to do it for the second and third and fourth and fifth. And maybe in a few years' time, you will be known as expert in real estate construction. That is how is the way forward. Use control monitoring. And let me give you a little example. So like in a procure to pay, when an organization issues a purchase order to a particular vendor, and if there are 3 vendors in the vendor master for the same product, is the PO issued at the lowest price or not? Now this can be checked by way of a query. You just run the query, it will give you all the results where PO has been issued at a price which is a little higher than the lowest price in the vendor master.
Audits. Is internal audit also governed by risks of practice? By that I mean, will internal auditor be held equally responsible for the wrongdoings of a company? Because I see that also as a discouraging factor, people running away from audits.
Welcome to Chartered Chat Show Season 2.
Hello friends, this is CA Divedi, Deputy Convener of Mira Road CPE Study Circle. Our guest for today is CA Murtaza Kachwala.
So hello members, here we are to yet another episode of the Chartered Chat Show. And today we have with us Murtuza Kachwala, a chartered accountant who specializes into internal audits and risk management. Sir, first let us start with your core subject, internal audit. What does it mean and what are the avenues that are available under internal audit for us?
So thank you. I think an interesting question and an interesting subject. But I would say it is like about the whole of governance, risk and compliance, GRC as we should say. And the first and the basic step is for any organization to have some form of policies and procedures. There has to be some method in madness. How will a person do his day-to-day activity? And every organization needs it. If you talk about now all the startups, and these startups someday want to go for a venture capital PE fund, or they want to go for listing on an SME stock exchange. And before that, the investor is going to ask, do you have some form of policies and procedures documented? And which means what? Even if an employee were to leave, someone else comes, he knows exactly what is required to be done. And mistakes lessen and the risk also is controlled. Now, when you are appointed as an internal auditor, you go and see the whole process end to end. Whether it is procure to pay, whether it is order to cash, whether it is capitalization and fixed asset. You start from the very beginning. You go step by step, and see it end to end. While doing that, you also look at compliances to policy procedure, compliances to action regulation, and you try to find out ways and means whereby more efficiency in the activity or the processes can be done, cost can be reduced, and revenue can be increased for the organization.
Wow. And then is this also like an audit? Like, is it post-mortem, or can we do something, customize it in such a way that the organization can actually stop such things from happening maybe?
So see now, the Institute of Chartered Accountants has issued the standard on internal audit, SIS. And globally also, the Institute of Internal Auditors Inc. at USA have issued the standards, global standards. Now, one of the standard is like selecting samples while doing your audit. But another sample is doing analytic procedures. And when you talk about analytic procedure, you take the whole population dump and you do the complete analytics on that. And which is where you write multiple queries, data analytic queries, and you do a lot of things now. And this data analytics queries, which starts with the internal audit, actually goes on to become the second line or the first line, and it becomes a continuous control monitoring. And let me give you a little example. So like in a procure to pay, when an organization issues a purchase order to a particular vendor, and if there are 3 vendors in the vendor master for the same product, is the PO issued at the lowest price or not? Now this can be checked by way of a query. You just run the query, it will give you all the results where PO has been issued at a price which is a little higher than the lowest price in the vendor master. Similarly, a split PO, assuming your authority matrix limit in the organization is to issue a purchase order up to 5 lakh rupees. I am your friend, I am a vendor, and I say I will do internal audit, and you wanted to give me appointment for 9 lakhs. So what you do is 9 lakh will go to your boss, and he may bring in more vendors, or he may want to bring 3 vendors and do a comparison. So what you will do is, you will give me a PO for 4.5 lakhs, and after 8-10 days another 4.5 lakhs. This is split PO. Now in a normal audit, how do you identify? So here, by writing queries or by doing a continuous control, what you can do is, same user raising purchase order on the same vendor, take the whole dump for every user to every vendor and map it with the authority metrics table and give a limit that any PO for, in your case, between 3.5 lakh rupees to 5 lakh rupees issue to the same vendor, and it will give you the result. So the whole analytics gives a lot of value to the organization, and it is neither post-mortem now. In fact, they take your queries and they run it on a daily basis. So audit you will do once in 3 years or once in 1 year of procurement, but the management can take your queries and they can keep on running it every week, every day, every minute.
That's how internal audit will help organizations. They should not understand it as a post-mortem activity, but rather look at it as a value addition.
Right.
Yeah. My next question would be, a lot of chartered accountants out there in practice are stuck with traditional modes of practice. They look into GST, income tax, audits, stat audits, tax audits. How do they see internal audit as an avenue of practice? What is the scope? Is it like the old traditional practice that is depleting day by day? Is it an avenue that they should look forward to? What's the future with internal audit?
So see, like you answered while you were posting your question, using an RPA bot or OCR technology or RPA technology, purchase invoices will be scanned and accounting entries will be done. Sales and the receivable comes from the system now. And bank statement, if you upload into the Tally, the bank reconciliation is done. So maybe in a decade's time from now, accounting will not be a activity for a chartered accountant, and no client will come and pay for accounting, because accounting will be done by the system, by the software. Similarly, the rate at which income tax department or GST department is collecting data and the return is getting auto-populated, maybe there will be no walk-in into our offices for filing of returns. So yes, the accountancy and in return filing, the day-to-day activity is going to reduce. If you are on the taxation side, direct and indirect, then it will be litigation. It will be like all the, knowledge-based work, and you will have to have knowledge about the sections on the regulation. When we talk about internal audit, I am sure every organization would want you to write policies and procedures. Every organization would want you to identify what can go wrong where. Every organization will come to you and say, like, how can we do this thing in a better way? So I would say all of these would be a process improvement, and process improvements can happen once you understand the industry, once you understand the process, and you know which tool and how to use and adopt and implement.
Okay, so if someone is looking out to start internal audit as a practice, as a fresher chartered accountant, what should be an ideal approach? How should they start their career?
So practice makes a man perfect, and I would say if they want to build a career in internal audit, they should start with a CA firm where there is internal audit practice and within the internal audit department. Or otherwise, they can even go and join in large organization in the in-house internal audit department. So both the points are a good starting point. I would prefer, and I did that like I'll start with a firm, because when you go into a firm, then you got multiple choice, and now people are even typecasting a chartered accountant industry-wide. So once a person is into BFSI, then is banking, fintech, and all of those, and insurance, okay? Or otherwise it can be telecom, media and technology. Or otherwise, when you are in manufacturing, you could be manufacturing, healthcare, life sciences and pharmaceutical. So that gives you a lot of area, and then you can go practice, learn those industries, learn the processes, and then take it from there.
Cool. It makes sense because we'll call it super specialization. We're not only talking about internal audit as a specialization, but also industry within which you conduct a very good internal audit. And with that, we actually see professionals like chartered accountants to help companies in these sectors grow like that.
See, a risk in hospital is different than a risk in a manufacturing company, right? And same is the regulation. Now, in a hospital, there is a chance that a outpatient comes in, does an X-ray, etc., and goes out without paying, and that is revenue lost. But what happens in a manufacturing? In a manufacturing, it will be completely different, right? So each industry is specific, and industry knowledge is required. And once you do a good work for a real estate construction company, you will be called to do it for the second and third and fourth and fifth. And maybe in a few years' time, you will be known as expert in real estate construction. That is how is the way forward.
Just like with normal audits, is internal audit also governed by risks of practice? By that I mean, will internal auditor be held equally responsible for the wrongdoings of a company? Because I see that also as a discouraging factor, people running away from audits.
So standard auditing are applicable. Engagement letter will have to be taken. Samples will have to be selected. Documentation working paper will have to be kept. There is no excuse there. Coming to what is the nature of report which I am giving? While doing a financial statement, possibly it is true and fair. And I am putting signature on the financial statement, and people are going and taking decision about the profitability of the company, about buying the shares, and they are putting their hard-earned money on that. So that is a lot more, responsible work, and hence a lot more risky. And we as a CA should be a lot more careful. When I talk about a tax audit, again, it's true and correct. When I come to the internal audit, I think I am doing a reasonable assurance which I am giving. I am not saying that once I have done the review of this process and given a report, there is no fraud or there is no wrong things which have happened. And I am restricting myself to the sample which I am selected. But yes, should you be responsible? Should you be careful? Of course, yes, because people rely on your report. You have to add value to the organization.
On a personal ground, tell me, sir, how do you enjoy your work, and what are the best and the worst part of your work? Plus, how do you connect with life? Like a lot of people talk about work-life balance and all. So, how do you blend your work-life balance within your work? Good thing about your work, bad thing about your work included in that.
See, for me, internal audit is like my passion, and every process is different. In procure to pay, there will be something different. In order to cash, something different. And in compliance, something different. And when I am doing compliance for a hospital, it is separate. Compliance for a factory is separate, and compliance for a SCZ is separate. So, I never knew before I did compliance for a manufacturing company that there was a light motor vehicle act, there was a heavy motor vehicle act, there was a cylindrical rule. And when I went to an ITS company, I came to know that there were regulations which said that a woman employee has to be sent in a car after 8 o'clock. And after 10 o'clock, someone has to escort her. So you get to learn that industry, that process within that industry. And if you have that passion, I would say for an internal auditor, digging deep is very important. You cannot just scratch the surface. Penetration and precision. Penetration will go deep. What next? And that is where I learn. And whatever I learn, I talk to people. So I think I love what I do. And that gives me my work-life balance. But otherwise, of course, I spend time looking at a movie, listening to a music, and even go for a walk and exercise in the morning.
Lovely. And that's what makes it. Like a lot of profession talk. Dancers talk about dance being their passion. Singers talk about singing being their passion. Chartered accountants, internal auditors should also see their profession as a passion, and that would bring a better work-life balance.
So just to end, quickly, some of the practicing CAs I meet these days, they are so upset, they are so frustrated going to office every day because penalty, prosecution, notices and late sittings, which is not the case with people like me. I love going to office. I enjoy because I know I'm going to learn something new today.
That's the takeaway.